I woke up to the sound of rain tapping against the window of my small, isolated cabin in the woods. It was pitch black outside, and the only light came from the dimly lit fireplace in the living room. I was alone in the cabin, and the silence was deafening. The only sound was the constant drumming of the rain on the roof. I got out of bed and walked over to the window, staring out into the darkness. There was something unsettling about the way the rain fell, like it was trying to tell me something. I shook my head, trying to dispel the feeling of unease that had settled over me. As I turned away from the window, I heard a faint whisper in my ear. I spun around, but there was no one there. I told myself it was just my imagination, but my heart was racing. I needed to get out of the cabin, to get some fresh air and clear my head. I grabbed my raincoat and stepped outside, feeling the cool rain on my face. I walked around the cabin, my boots sinking into the soft earth. But as I made my way to the edge of the clearing, something caught my eye. There was a figure standing in the woods, just beyond the reach of the flickering light from the cabin. It was tall and thin, with long arms that hung down to its knees. Its head was tilted to one side, as if it was studying me. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I tried to call out, but my voice caught in my throat. The figure didn't move, just stood there in the rain, watching me. Suddenly, the figure darted into the woods, disappearing into the darkness. I stood there for a moment, trying to catch my breath. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I made my way back to the cabin, my heart racing. As I stepped inside, I heard a noise coming from the bedroom. It sounded like someone was shuffling around, moving things. I grabbed the fireplace poker and crept towards the bedroom door. As I opened the door, I was hit by a wave of cold air. The window was open, and rain was pouring in. But there was something else in the room with me. I could feel its presence, like a cold hand gripping my heart. I searched the room, but there was no one there. I closed the window and tried to calm myself down. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was in the cabin with me. The rain continued to fall outside, tapping against the roof and windows. I sat by the fireplace, trying to shake off the fear that had settled over me. But the longer I sat there, the more I felt like I was being watched. As the night wore on, the rain grew heavier. I could hear the wind howling through the trees, and the sound of footsteps outside the cabin. But every time I looked out the window, there was no one there. Eventually, I fell into a fitful sleep. But even in my dreams, I could feel the cold presence of whatever was in the cabin with me. It was like a weight pressing down on my chest, suffocating me. When I woke up, it was morning. The rain had stopped, and the cabin was silent. But as I looked around, I realized that something was different. The furniture was out of place, and there were scratches on the floorboards. I knew then that I had to leave the cabin. Whatever was in there with me, it wasn't human. And I didn't want to find out what it was capable of. As I was leaving the cabin, I heard a low growling sound behind me. I turned around and saw the figure from the wood standing just outside the cabin, its eyes glowing in the dim light. I froze, unsure of what to do. The figure began to move towards me, its long arms reaching out to grab me. I stumbled backwards, trying to get away. But as the figure got closer, I saw that it wasn't alone. There were other figures emerging from the woods, all with the same glowing eyes and long, thin arms. I turned and ran, knowing that I couldn't fight them all off. As I sprinted through the woods, the rain started up again, soaking me to the bone. I didn't stop until I reached the main road, where I flagged down a passing car. The driver was hesitant to stop at first, but I must have looked desperate because they eventually let me in. I told them what had happened, but they didn't believe me. They dropped me off at a nearby town, and I spent the next few days in a hotel room, trying to make sense of what had happened. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had stumbled upon something that I was never meant to see. Something in those woods was watching me, waiting for me. I never went back to the cabin, and I never spoke of what had happened to anyone else. But the memory of those glowing eyes and long, thin arms haunted me for years to come.